Hi, this is Greg Beckett, motivational hypnotist, with another episode of Time to Get Unstuck here at the Hypno 24/7 Live Network. And I have a really awesome guest today. It's Dan Candell. But just before we get into that, I want to talk about our sponsor, which is Hypno Thoughts Platinum. Now, we've talked about Hypno Thoughts Live, which is every summer in August in Las Vegas. But Hypno Thoughts Platinum is going to be the end of February, I think 28th, 29th, and March 1st in San Diego. And what it is 6 hypnotists that are leading professionals in the field. And it's more concentrated 3 days. They each have a half day of teaching us more things within our profession to grow and change and move forward with our business or profession or whatever it is I do. Dan knows about this already, and he's being so polite, just sitting there going, You have anything to input on that, Dan, about Hypno Thoughts Platinum?
You know, this is an event. I was actually just talking to Scott Sandlin about it about 2 or 3 days ago, and it is for a very niche category of people who have successful practices, who are looking to put more of an investment in order to get that higher quality of education. Not that Hypno Thoughts other conventions aren't high quality. This is for the upper echelon, for the people who are like, I see the value in putting a greater investment into contributing back to my career. So make sure you're one of those upper echelon people and go, because it's going to be a great event.
It's more focused, isn't it? It's a more focused. Just to clarify that down, it's more focused. And you can go to htplatinum.net to check it out. And thank you very much, Hypno Thoughts Platinum. So back to Time to Get Unstuck, which for those of you that are new, it's really about moving forward, because there's really no such thing as getting unstuck. You have to move forward. And we take a word from my journey or those that I'm speaking with or clients and discuss that word. So I have Dan Candell, as I said before, who is a hypnotist. He's also an author, and he's a trainer. And that's a hypnosis trainer, right?
A hypnosis trainer of hypnotists, yes.
And so Dan and I had discussed, when we talked about him being on the show, a few words. So I do not know the word that Dan is giving me today for us to discuss about moving forward and what's been important to him or what he knows. So how about the word?
The word, Greg, is transparency.
Transparency. Okay.
You're like, okay.
No, but a lot of things just went zoom through my head about transparency. And it's actually kind of touching, because for me, even though I want to ask you questions, but for me, it's about being who you are.
Yes.
And learning how to accept yourself.
Yes.
And allowing people to accept you or not.
Right.
That's where I start, but you tell me.
And also I think being revealing and not hiding behind this shield or this velvet curtain all the time. Being a stage performer, because I started being a stage performer. And I was a magician, then became a stage hypnotist. I started when I was very young, when I was like 12 or 13 years old, was when I started doing stage hypnosis shows. And I always learned to be the Dan Candell behind the curtain. It's like I was very selective of what I reveal to people or what I tell people. Dan Candell on stage has always been this androgynous figure, and I had a private life and I had a personal life, to the point where Dan Candell is not even my real name. Shocker. Greg's like, this just got good.
Well, let's go with it, because maybe I have something to share.
So when I was growing up, I came from a family of drug and alcohol abuse and addiction, and my family was in the newspaper an awful lot for not so good things. Mm-hmm. And people started associating that stuff with me. And being a stage performer, it's like I'd be in the newspaper one day, like a whole expose and article about I'm doing this show for this local charity, and I'm like 15 years old doing this hypnosis show. And then I would go to the library and help a bunch of people stop smoking and lose weight. So there were like articles about that, and then you turn the page of the newspaper, and now it's this detailed description of how my family is in court. And I'm like, what a dichotomy. Like, what the heck? So my real name is Dan Munier, and a couple of reasons why I no longer go by that. Number one is it's because people would pronounce it wrong. They'd say manure, and which is not good for stage. And number two, I didn't want to be associated with the troubles, trials, and tribulations that my family was going through. I wanted to keep that hidden. And I also came out when I was 18 or 19 years old. I came in the closet, surprise.
And we're talking about being gay.
No, I was no. Well, how dare you? Yes, we're talking about being gay.
Well,
yeah.
There's people that are going to be watching that have no clue because we know each other from different places.
Yes.
Meaning like Hypno Thoughts and GH and those sorts of things. So they don't know. That's our inside communication. That's right. Again, a velvet rope.
It is. It's this. It really is. And I for so long shielded that. And I didn't want to. I was never like the gay guy on stage, whatever that means. And I had several hypnotists who said, "You would be the great token gay hypnotist on stage. You should be that guy." I didn't know what that meant. Like, how do you go? What does it mean to be a gay hypnotist, Greg? Like, what? Like, is on this?
I know how to be a hypnotist, and we're talking about what was our word today?
Transparency.
Right. So I know how to be a hypnotist, a good hypnotist, but I also happen to be gay.
Yeah. Right? Sorry, so this wasn't to out you. I don't know if you.
No, I don't. What do I care? Hello. But the whole thing of it is that if we talk about that transparency, right? We're talking about hiding who we really are, which doesn't allow that fullness of who we are as human beings and experiences to share that with clients and the world to help them heal as we all heal and move forward.
Exactly. And Greg, I for so long said, I'm not going to do it. I don't want to be known as a gay hypnotist. I don't want that to be my hook or my crutch. I don't even know what that means. I thought that's going to isolate me from getting into corporate speaking. And then I have had people say they're never going to book the gay guy. I've had people say that to me before. And I had to decide, does that mean I don't want to work for those people? Or does that mean I should hide that? Now, with that said, full transparency, I went to speak in San Salvador, which is the murder capital of the world. And I did not reveal that I was gay. Thank goodness. Because about 60 seconds before I went to speak to this organization, the president came up to me and said, "That man over there, make fun of him, the one in the pink shirt." And I said, "Why?" And he said, "Well, because he is a blankety blank blank blank." And I don't know what rating this show would go to, so I don't know if I can say it or not.
It was rude comments about his sexuality.
It was yes, exactly.
Or possible sexuality. He just happened to have on a pink shirt.
Right. Exactly. Yes. And that was their measure, I guess. And I said, "Well, what happens if you find out people are gay here?" He said, "We don't like that. We're not very progressive here. They usually end up in a ditch." And I'm like, uh-oh. I'm like, good. Let's reel it in a little bit, right? So there are some times where I didn't let my freak flag fly, right? In places, which it was a good thing. However, and I didn't know this before I went there, by the way, I'm boarding the plane to go to San Salvador, and the woman checking me into my flight from Boston happened to be from San Salvador. Odd. And she said, "Amigo, where are you going?" I said, "San Salvador." She goes, "Ay, Dios mío, don't go." I said, "Why?" She said, "I'm from there. I'll never go back. It's a murder capital of the world." That's how I boarded the plane. So getting back to transparency, right? Fast forward, I started to slowly come out on stage in some shows selectively, and not in the capacity that people are telling me I should, but I would drop little hints, or I would make jokes or something like that, or I would tell stories. I'd say, my partner, whatever. There was a school I performed for, Catholic high school. I'd performed there for years. it was in my local vicinity, my area. So the kids who went there, their parents actually knew me because of somebody else I had dated. I actually, he was a dancer, and he was an older dancer, and he would work at this dance studio for younger kids. So a lot of the younger kids by that time, now they're in high school, their parents know who I am. They know I dated this guy. So I guess word got round, and there were a group of, I hate to typecast, but a group of jocks who went to the show with an agenda. And as I'm walking on stage, started saying screaming, very derogatory comments and things toward me. And then
this is a Catholic high school.
Catholic high school, yes.
Okay.
And then a couple of really nasty things happened in that show. And for example, a kid got up and had a physical altercation with a girl on stage. Now, this was one of the ones that was screaming those derogatory things. I didn't realize, and I ended the show, but I didn't realize, Greg, that would affect me. I didn't think it did affect me until the next night where I had to get up and perform for 400 people again. The level of anxiety that I felt, and then I realized I had PTSD. And I'm thinking, this is why. This is why. I end up having to work with a hypnotist, and now they call me the anxiety relief guy because I specialize in working with people who have anxiety and a lot in performance anxiety, high performance stuff. And a lot of times I'll tell that story to my clients because it really means something to them. And it shows them, wow, this guy knows what he's talking about because he's gone through it himself.
Right.
And by the way, he's used what he's using on us to overcome what he went through. By the way, that happened 3 years ago. And powerful moment, I just received 3 weeks ago an anonymous email from somebody apologizing for that incident.
Wow.
Which was huge. Absolutely huge. This person, it came from anonymous something or other, and said, Dan, I want to apologize to you. I said some very hurtful and blah, blah, blah things to you at one point, and it wasn't fair of me to say something in a public forum like that for something that you can't control. And I'm like, wow. And I knew this, it came, that's the person where that email came from. I knew it. It wasn't up until about a year and a half ago that I couldn't talk about this, Greg, without bursting into tears. It was a very powerful shifting experience, an enlightening experience. But now I perform at a comedy club, and this is where I let it out, and I love it. I love it. And transparency is important because I think so many of us as people in the self-help or personal development profession don't want to reveal too much because what happens if we get found out?
That, you know what, that's interesting because people watching this may be in our industry and they may not. This is basically for everybody. And it's not just in our industry, it's all of us or everyone afraid to let people know that things aren't perfect.
Right.
Or to know that, I know that I have friends that have younger kids or even people our own age, they go to a class and if they don't know everything, they're embarrassed. But what are you in the class for? Is to learn. You shouldn't be embarrassed that you don't know, right? So it's the same thing in life. We're going through things to become who we're growing to be. And if we're hiding all the faults, then you're not being a full self to be able to learn those things.
Right. And I think this is something that people should live by because one of the other words I shared with you was release. Mm-hmm. And transparency is one of the things that really helped me release a lot of the things that I needed to let go of. And these are such powerful transformations that that you and I as hypnotists help people make, is letting go of things. Yesterday there was a person in my office whose child had some really difficult health complications, and what I did, I had this to help him understand it, to help the father understand what was going on with his child. I had him float into his child, and this guy just starts bawling his eyes out because he was able to understand it from a different level.
So I'm stopping you for a second so people understand. I understand what you're saying, but so he was in hypnosis.
Yes.
And he was able to sense, imagine, feel himself.
Yes.
Go into his child to understand the viewpoint, the perspective, the feelings of his child, of what he's going through.
Yes.
Okay. I just want to clear so that he could have that capacity or that vulnerability and availability and willingness to do that, to feel that.
Yes. A big category of people I've been working with are parents who have children with anxiety, and the children with anxiety specifically caused from a medical condition called known as PANDAS or PAN.
Mm-hmm.
And it's when there's swelling in the brain from tonsillitis or strep, which causes extreme anxiety, obsessive compulsive behaviors, and defiance, mood changes, mood swings, sleeping problems. And it's a family issue. It really is. It can happen to one child and it affects the entire family. So I work with a lot of families who have children who have this condition, and the swelling goes down the brain, but the behavioral issues remain. And part of what I do with the parents is I do utilize hypnosis as a part of the healing modality, or as part of the process.
Right.
I have them envision their child in front of them. I have them float into the child in their mind, so that they take on their perspective. And I also have them, as the child, look back at them themselves, looking back at the parent, to seeing them through those eyes of unconditional love and compassion.
Right.
And like, this is mommy, this is daddy.
Right.
And what a shift. And this allows the parent to become completely transparent and say, I did not know my child felt that way, or I didn't really get what my kid was experiencing until we did this exercise.
Right.
So it's about opening the clients up to being completely transparent. So as a hypnotist, I specialize with anxiety. That's why they call me the anxiety relief guy. It's not just, as you know, as a hypnotist, it's not just about putting someone in a trance and being like, your problem's all done now. But for me, it's about giving them a sense of control. And I tell them, I say, when you come in, I want you to be open with me about everything and honest with me about everything. And I want you to be selfish, because when you're selfish in my office, it allows you to be selfless out there in society and be even more of a giving person, give the greatness that you have to the world. Yeah. But it starts with that. It starts with them being selfish. It starts with them being transparent and open and honest with themselves. Yeah. Yeah. So part of that, like I said, is being very open and honest to other people and about my background. And I'll share with people, I say, I come from a family of addiction, and a lot of other hypnotists tell me, Dan, we can't believe how much you reveal about yourself to clients.
You know, we are a lot alike in that I do that too, so that they have an understanding that I understand. And that opens up a whole world, because if they think, because when we hide things, not just you and I, we as one, as people hide things from people, not that we need to put all our laundry out there, but if there's certain times that someone's going through something and we can explain that we've been through it, so let me help you, it opens up a world to someone else. So if we're always going around like everything's great, there's a lot of pressure there to keep that facade, right? And for other people, you know, when they're trying to go through growth, to get unstuck, or to whatever. All right, it's Dan and Greg again. We had a computer glitch. internet life. See, I'm not faking it. It's the way
transparency.
It is. Transparency. So what we were talking about is when we don't have to air out all our dirty laundry. You heard that part, right?
Right. Yes.
At the same time, if we have someone that's near us, or even someone that we don't know that's going through something, and we can share an experience so they know that they're okay. And it allows that healing to start for that person.
Right.
And there's a lot of pressure to keep up facades. And a lot of my belief system coming from anxiety and stress and all of those things are from keeping up something that may not be true, because we grow and change. There's a consistency to change, right? There's all change in this world. That's all it really is change. And we're looking for stability in that change. But we also have to grow and change. So if we have a identity or a view that we want people to see and it stays stagnant, then that's tough.
Yeah, it is tough, because these are the 5 things I tell people that you have to have set in place in order to change: motivation, expectation, belief, willingness, and reinforcement or repetition.
Say that one more time.
Yes. Motivation, expectation, belief, willingness, and reinforcement and repetition. It doesn't matter if you're going to a therapist, a hypnotist, a Reiki practitioner, what modality of help that you're going to. If you don't have those 5 things set into motion, it's going to be very difficult for you to change. And part of that is being real with the person who you're working with and maybe saying, hey, look, you know what? I'm motivated, but I don't really have this expectation because I don't know a lot about the process, or I don't know a lot about you. So it's about getting your clients to be transparent as well by you sharing things about yourself. And it's all about rapport, right, Greg?
It is about rapport. It's completely about rapport. And I think with rapport, you can do almost anything.
Absolutely.
It's been in my head, and I want to say this. There's a quote. I don't know it. I wish I'd popped it up because I didn't know we were going to talk about transparency. There's a quote that Nelson Mandela gave, but it's actually written by Marianne Williamson. And it's a quote about who am I to be fantastic and great and fabulous and stuff, and who am I not to be? And part of that quote is, it is not serving the world to minimize, and this is again paraphrasing, minimize ourselves so other people are comfortable.
Right.
It's by our releasing our fears and becoming who we're supposed to be that then gives permission to other people to become themselves. So in that transparency that say, oh, we're all in this together, that it allows that change. Right. And it starts with ourselves.
It really does. And that's why I'm very open about my experiences, because it's almost time. Turkey's done.
So you're saying you were transparent about your experiences?
About the experiences that I've gone through, my life challenges, and also my why. Like that's why I want to help people on the level I do, and that's why I got this tattoo. It says we choose our own direction, and it's a compass, because I found that in life, based on our experiences, we can be victims or we can release and let go of the victim mentality. I am, I think, 30% more statistically likely to be an addict because it runs in my family. Poof! You know what? No, I'm not. But I do feel if I didn't see that stuff growing up, I wouldn't be doing what I'm doing today, because that showed me how I didn't want to be.
That goes into a whole nother conversation.
Yeah.
About being grateful once we get to a certain age, being grateful for those challenges, that it helped create us to who we are today. And if we like who we are, then those were great things. And if we don't like who we are, we need to look at it and how do we take those things and make it into the positive for us to like ourselves.
Absolutely.
As people,
100%.
The alarm went off. It's time's up pretty much. Did you have one last thing that you wanted to wrap it up, or do you feel like it is?
I have one last thing, and this is why I say at the end of all of my interviews, look at me, I'm talking like I'm a celebrity. Be well, do good, and be true to who you are.
Cool. Now, the other thing I want is, how do people find you?
People find me on anxietyreliefguy.com, anxietyreliefguy.com. You can also find me on Facebook, Dan Candell Hypnotist, or Anxiety Relief Revolution. My tagline is, I'm Dan Candell. They call me the Anxiety Relief Guy, creator of the Anxiety Relief Revolution. And it's a podcast that starts and airs on September 24th.
Cool. So I really, really appreciate you coming on the show and being transparent.
Thank you.
Leading by example.
Thank you.
And people can find me, of course, here on Hypno 24/7 Live Network, Facebook, hypnosisla.com. And thanks, everybody, for watching. And thanks again, Dan, for being here. Thanks.
Great pleasure.